Well, for more analysis, we're joined from Washington by Ms. Ginger Chapman, political analyst, and from Paris, Mr. Majid Bouden, international law professor. Thank you so much for being with us. And let me start here with Ms. Chapman. Ms. Chapman, Trump is weighing options for broader U.S. role after 6 days of joint U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran. According to the White House, given the war powers debate in Washington, is the administration risking an undeclared war? And how sustainable is this politically at home?
Well, first, Ms. Mona, thank you for having us today, and greetings to your viewers and to your other guests. And we do see that President Trump is in trouble at home, even though the Congress, in their most recent vote, they failed to pass the War Powers Resolution Act. Congress will be having other votes. We know that if this war is a slow burn, if it keeps continuing as it is, this is going to greatly damage President Trump's and the Republican Party's chances in the midterm. This is because most Americans are opposed to this war. We see only 27% of Americans approve of this war, over 80% disapprove. And further, this war is looking like it's going to last much longer than anticipated, and it is getting more out of control. It appears that President Trump, the White House, did not plan for a day after. They did not have a comprehensive strategy as to how we're going to carry out our goals. We see this evidenced by President Trump's recent statements that we have enough munitions. We will offer insurance to ships transiting the strait. We will provide Navy escorts. We may put boots on the ground. None of these were issues that came up in the pre-planning, and these are unlikely to succeed because the munitions Trump is talking about are reserves we have to pull from other countries. These are stockpiles we gave other countries, either for their usage or for conflicts in those areas. So Trump now has to pull those back. With insurance, we may offer insurance to shipping companies, but no company or CEO will put their ship and their crew in harm's way and risk their ship on fire and their crew, even if they do have insurance. And Navy escorts just provide a larger, more attractive military target to be fired upon. So these are whistling past the graveyard strategies that Trump and our Pentagon is trying to come up with now. Trump is even talking about boots on the ground. When this started 6 days ago, Trump said we were going to bomb for 4 or 5 days and then renegotiate, and then it became for 4 weeks. Now we see Secretary of War Hegseth saying this could go on for 8 weeks. This just shows that America did not have a viable plan going in. In fact, it appears now that the negotiations with Witkoff and Kushner were another ruse, because apparently this had been planned back in December when Netanyahu visited Mar-a-Lago. So the American people are angry. We have the impression we have been lied to by our own administration. At the same time that we are seeing oil prices are going up, stock prices are going down. Our president is warning us that there will be more casualties, that gas prices may go up, and this is all for Israel. So this is creating a great deal of anger among Trump's base, among his supporters, not to mention making targets of our allies in the region. We made our bases and our allies' territories targets, and then we failed to protect them.
Right.
Now
We'll come to this point. We'll come to this point, Ms. Chapman, because this is a very important point you pointed at right now. Let me go here to Dr. Bouden. And Dr. Bouden, on day 6 of U.S.-Israeli war with Iran, with reports of casualties and infrastructure damage inside Iran. Now, how could the images and narratives emerging from both sides, because we're speaking about conflicting narratives that is coming from both sides, now how would that shape regional and international perceptions of the conflict?
First of all, we have to keep in mind always and in a permanent way the civilian, the dead civilians, the casualties, again, the civilians. This is important. And in any war, targeting civilians or having civilians as victims, we cannot speak about collateral victims. There are victims, period. In international law, there is no collateral victim, there is victims. And this is a war crime from any side. So the belligerents must be aware that one day they have to respond to this question, and which is engaging the responsibility. Both sides must keep and put everything to prevent targeting civilians, and also the infrastructure. The civil infrastructure is also a component of a state and a component of a nation, and it's an important utility for the civilians. So targeting also civil infrastructure is also a war crime. And this is important. This is important on the legal side, but it's also important on the perception of the aggressor. So today things are changing. Before we could look at it as a normal thing which can happen in a war, but now people around the world are looking at this in a different way. They are looking at this as they are depriving civilians from their utilities to live a normal life, and this is not acceptable anymore. And therefore, Donald Trump administration must understand that they have to observe this rule. Netanyahu, he must observe this rule, even though we have seen him acting in Gaza, and he thinks that he is out of reach. But this is important. Also, from the Iranian side, they must observe this rule because this is important. And it is a fact that under international law, the action now, this military action, is a violation of international law. But when you look, but we have to look at another aspect for the Iranian side, that he must also understand and keep in mind that he has obligation toward his population. He must protect his population even if there is an aggression, and he must also give all the rights to his population. And this is why the perception of the Iranian regime is the Iranian regime is seen as a rogue state. But this does not give any authority or any ground to attack Iran. And this is when you see Chancellor Merz yesterday and all these days saying that Donald Trump is doing the dirty job. Under international law, there is no dirty job. There is law. We have to, and this is what France and Spain has, and other countries, Finland and other countries has remind. And this is important also for the Iranian regime to watch out what he's doing toward his population. And this regime is not protecting its civilian population. He's protecting itself only.
Ms. Chapman, U.S. intelligence leaders reportedly briefed Congress amid concerns about the escalation not just escalation, but also extension. Now, some lawmakers question whether Iran was an imminent threat in the first place. How might internal US divisions shape Trump's next move?
Well, first we know that Trump is a law unto himself. The good doctor in Paris made the excellent point that the United States actions targeting civilians, the school, the girls' school, the hospital, these are violations of international law, the Geneva Convention, the United Nations Charter. And this is for two reasons. One, we know that the United States has adopted uh, Israel's practice of targeting civilians intentionally in order to create the most fear and deterrence amongst the population and as a form of collective punishment. A second reason is that the United States has no good targets, no good intelligence in Iran. Our pilots do not know where their defense missile silos are. We do not know where some of their facilities are. So because of this lack of good military targeting intelligence, we are just striking civilian targets and schools to strike anything in order to carry out this war of fear and aggression. And you mentioned the lawmakers in Congress. We know that in the closed door session of Congress, the Pentagon chief said that Iran was not an imminent threat. This resulted in Trump's administration. We saw Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, Secretary Rubio, and Trump were all coming up with different reasons and excuses. First, Rubio said Israel was going to strike first. That would make us targets, so we were only defending ourselves. Then Trump said, well, no, we had to strike first because we think Iran was going to strike first. And we hear these conflicted statements where Trump is telling Congress this is not a war, this is a military operation, these are strategic strikes, at the same time that he's telling the American people this is a war, expect casualties, expect higher energy prices. So this is more than just contradictions. This is lack of strategy, lack of objective. This is going to lead to failure. Also, because President Trump is battling the legislature on this war, our Congress is supposed to represent the will of the people. The people vote, and our elected leaders carry out what we demand with our vote. And here, President Trump is circumventing Congress's authority to declare war by subterfuge, and also at the same time, Trump is battling our judiciary. Keep in mind, a lot of this aggression started with tariffs, trade wars, harsh economic measures to get other countries to bend to our will. And when that didn't work, we escalated into bombing ships, bombing small boats off Venezuela, kidnapping the president of Venezuela, bombing our negotiating partners in
Yes,
Doha.
yes.
Mhm.
If I
So
may
Trump
ask
is
you here,
battling.
Ms. Chapman,
Mhm.
all what you're speaking about, was Iran an imminent threat just that has to be confronted at the backdrop of all what you're speaking about?
Iran was never a threat to the United States, much less an imminent threat. We have so much testimony from uh, Tulsi Gabbard, the director of intelligence, that they had not been working on a nuclear weapon since 2003. We knew they had not been working on a nuclear weapon since '98 because of American actions during the Iraq-Iran war. Uh, so our own intelligence was telling us they were not a threat. And indeed, this is all because Netanyahu's goal for the past 40 years has been to take out Iran. So this is at the behest of Netanyahu, the big money Israeli donors, AIPAC, the Israeli lobby, And this is why Trump is struggling to come up with a threat, first saying it's the nuclear weapons, then saying, well, they could develop missiles in the future that might reach the United States. So the American people are not buying this. Trump's poll numbers are dropping. We know even despite the chance death to America, they could not act on that. And indeed, those are justified considering in 1953 we took over their government. We installed our man, the Shah, and ever since then, we have been continuously persecuting Iran, applying economic sanctions, snapback sanctions, harsher and harsher economic measures. Our oil companies would love to go into Iran and get control of their light, sweet oil. So there are many, many
Yes.
motivations behind this. The biggest one is Israel and their Greater Israel Project.
Right. Dr. Bouden, amid the escalation, European governments are struggling to coordinate a coherent response to US-Israel-Iran conflict. Even as some member states begin to discuss collective defense measures, or do you think Europe could really emerge as a diplomatic broker?
This is an obligation for Europe now. It's a need, it's a necessity to, if not the European Union and Europe as such will not survive, at least on the basis on which it is now constructed. That's constructed on the respect of the rule of law. And this is the barrier against barbarism. This is against dictatorship. And this is important. And a lot of countries around the world are looking at this as a goal for them also. People deserve to live in peace and to live in a state of law. And now there is a move which should be made now, because when you look at international law and you look at least two principles, the principle of self-determination of nations, of populations, and the principle of sovereignty. So now we look at the sovereignty matter, which is important. It's upheld. But how about the self-determination of population to live within their country in a state of law? This is a principle of international law. It should be implemented. How? It's not yet. There is no mechanism for that. We make declarations. The declarations are fine, but
there are also moves. There are also moves, Dr. Bouden. We've seen France sending some of its air flights, and we've seen also sending its nuclear carrier, and we have seen also some statements by England, and also we're seeing controversial statements by Spain, for instance.
Yes, but you see, it is very simple for the United Nations today, for the Secretary General to request for the General Assembly of the United Nations to request an advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice to say how this principle of international law could be implemented in practical terms. It means that a state cannot control, like what's going on in Iran now, its own population. You see, in Iran, they have implemented, for instance, the face finding, which is to control everybody coming down from a bus or going to a theater or to get home. And in few seconds, you will see what this person is doing all the day and with whom he has met, etc. This control is not accepted. It's not acceptable.
Yes.
In a state of law. And it's important that the population of Iran will have access to determine their rights. And this is important that at least now, after all this, we can obtain from the International Court of
Right.
Justice an advisory opinion. You see, the problem is here. If the coalition between Donald Trump and Netanyahu will prevail, and this is a possibility, technically speaking,
Yes.
then the Netanyahu will put all the region under its own control.
Yes.
And
Yes.
which is illegitimate. And if the Iranian regime will prevail, or at least will resist for a long time, then you will have all the region and Iran under a dictatorship for decades.
Right.
So
right.
we have to find a way out, and the way out is international law.
Right. Dr. Majid Bouden, we have to end it here because our time is out, but Ms. Ginger Chapman, political analyst, and Dr. Majid Bouden, international law professor, we thank you so much for being with us and for your very distinguished analysis here.